Have you ever felt like your money just slips through your fingers no matter how much you earn? You're working hard, maybe in your 40s or 50s, but at the end of the month, you're left wondering where it all went. If that sounds familiar, you're not alone. And I've been there too. Hi, I'm James, and welcome back to Midlife Wealth Journey, where we help midlifers like you build a secure financial future. Today, we're tackling a foundational skill that can transform your finances: budgeting. I know the word budget might sound boring or restrictive, but stick with me. I promise it's not about giving up everything you love. It's about taking control of your money so you can build the life you want. In this video, we'll cover the basics of budgeting for a midlife wealth plan, share a real-life story of someone who turned their finances around with a simple budget, and walk you through practical steps to create a budget that works for you. Let's get started. Why budgeting matters in your 40s and 50s. Let's start with why budgeting is so important, especially in your 40s and 50s. At this stage of life, you're likely juggling a lot, maybe a mortgage, kids' expenses, or helping aging parents. You might also be thinking more seriously about retirement, which is getting closer every year. A budget isn't just a list of numbers, it's a tool that helps you align your money with your goals. Without a budget, it's easy to overspend on things that don't matter while neglecting the things that do, like saving for retirement or paying off debt. Budgeting gives you clarity and control. It helps you see exactly where your money is going, so you can make intentional decisions. For example, if you're spending $300 a month on dining out, but only saving $100 for retirement, a budget can help you shift those priorities. It also reduces financial stress. When you know you've got enough to cover your bills, handle emergencies, and still enjoy life, you'll sleep better at night. And here's the best part. Budgeting in your 40s and 50s sets you up for long-term success. If you start now, you've still got 15 to 25 years before retirement to build wealth, pay off debt, and create the future you want. I used to think budgeting was for people who were struggling, not for someone like me who was earning a decent income. But when I started budgeting at 42, I realized how much money I was wasting on things that didn't matter. That clarity helped me pay off $18,500 in credit card debt, build a $9,000 emergency fund, and start investing for retirement, all things I shared in my last video. Budgeting isn't about restriction, it's about freedom, and I'm going to show you how to do it. A real-life story. How budgeting changed Emily's life. Let me tell you about Emily, a 47-year-old office manager I know who transformed her finances with a simple budget. Emily was earning $65,000 a year, but she felt like she was always broke. She had a mortgage, a car payment, and 2 kids in middle school, plus $8,000 in credit card debt from years of overspending. Emily didn't have a budget. She just spent what she needed and hoped there'd be something left at the end of the month. Spoiler alert, there never was. She'd often dip into her overdraft to cover expenses, which came with fees that added up fast. Emily told me she felt like she was failing her family because she couldn't get ahead financially. Everything changed when Emily decided to try budgeting. She started by tracking her spending for 1 month, writing down every dollar she spent. She was shocked to see she was spending $400 a month on things like takeout, streaming subscriptions, and impulse buys at the store, like new clothes or gadgets she didn't really need. Meanwhile, she was only putting $50 a month toward her credit card debt, which meant she was barely making a dent in it. Emily decided to create a budget using a method called the 50-30-20 rule. It's a simple framework. 50% of your income goes to needs, like housing, groceries, and bills. 30% goes to wants, like dining out or hobbies, and 20% goes to savings and debt repayment. Emily's take-home pay was about $4,000 a month after taxes. Using the 50-30-20 rule, she allocated $2,000 to needs, $1,200 to wants, and $800 to savings and debt. At first, she struggled to stick to the wants category. She was used to spending more like $1,600 a month on things like eating out and entertainment. But she made small changes, like cooking at home more often and switching to free activities like park outings with her kids. That brought her wants down to $2,200. With the $800 she set aside for savings and debt, Emily focused on her credit card debt first. She put $600 a month toward it while making minimum payments on her other bills, and she used the remaining $200 to start an emergency fund. It took her 14 months, but she paid off all $8,000 of her credit card debt. Then she redirected that $600 a month to her emergency fund, building it up to $6,000 in just 10 months. Now, at 49, Emily has no credit card debt, a solid emergency fund, and she started saving $300 a month for retirement. She told me budgeting gave her a sense of control she'd never had before, and it all started with a simple plan. The basics of budgeting. Understanding your money flow. Now that you've seen how budgeting changed Emily's life, let's dive into the basics of creating a budget for your midlife wealth plan. The first step is understanding your money flow, where your money comes from and where it goes. This might sound obvious, but most people don't have a clear picture of their finances, and that's where budgeting comes in. Start by calculating your monthly income. If you have a regular salary, this is easy. Just look at your pay stub after taxes and deductions. For example, if you earn $70,000 a year, your take-home pay might be around $4,500 a month after taxes. If your income varies, like if you're self-employed or have a side hustle, average out the last 3 months to get a good estimate. Don't forget to include any other income like rental income or child support. Next, track your expenses for 1 month. Write down everything you spend, every coffee, every grocery trip, every bill. You can use a notebook, a spreadsheet, or a free budgeting app to make this easier. At the end of the month, categorize your expenses into 3 groups: needs, wants, and savings, or debt repayment. Needs are essentials like housing, utilities, groceries, transportation, and insurance. Wants are things like dining out, entertainment, or hobbies. Savings and debt repayment include things like your emergency fund, retirement savings, or extra payments on credit cards. When I did this for the first time, I was surprised to see I was spending $500 a month on wants, like dining out and new gadgets, while only saving $100. That imbalance showed me exactly where I needed to make changes. Tracking your expenses gives you a starting point, and it's the foundation of a good budget. Choosing a budgeting method that works for you. Once you understand your money flow, the next step is choosing a budgeting method that works for you. There are lots of methods out there, but I'll walk you through 3 popular ones that are great for midlifers. The first is the 50-30-20 rule, which Emily used. It's simple and flexible, making it perfect if you're new to budgeting. Like I mentioned earlier, you allocate 50% of your income to needs, 30% to wants, and 20% to savings and debt repayment. Let's say your take-home pay is $5,000 a month. That means $2,500 goes to needs, $1,500 to wants, and $1,000 to savings or debt. If your needs are more than 50%, which can happen if you live in an expensive area, you might need to adjust the percentages, like 60-20-20, and cut back on wants to make it work. The key is to find a balance that fits your life. The second method is zero-based budgeting. This is where you give every dollar a job, so your income minus your expenses equals 0. For example, if you earn $4,500 a month, you'd assign all $4,500 to specific categories, like $1,500 for rent, $500 for groceries, $300 for debt, and so on, until you've accounted for every dollar. This method is great if you want more control and detail, but it can take more time to manage. I tried zero-based budgeting for a while, and it helped me get really intentional about my spending, especially when I was paying off my credit card debt. The third method is the envelope system. This is a more hands-on approach. often used for variable expenses like groceries or entertainment. You assign a certain amount of cash to each category, like $400 for groceries, and put that cash in an envelope. Once the envelope is empty, you stop spending in that category for the month. You can also do this digitally with budgeting apps that mimic the envelope system. This method works well if you struggle with overspending in specific areas, because it forces you to stick to your limits. There's no one-size-fits-all budgeting method. The best one is the one you'll stick to. If you like simplicity, start with the 50-30-20 rule. If you want more control, try zero-based budgeting. If you need help with overspending, the envelope system might be for you. You can even mix and match methods to fit your needs. The important thing is to choose a method and get started. Step-by-step guide to creating your budget. Now that you've picked a budgeting method, let's walk through a step-by-step guide to creating your budget. This is a practical process you can do in an hour or two, and it'll set you up for success. Step 1. Gather your numbers. You already calculated your monthly income and tracked your expenses, so you've got a good starting point. Write down your total income, like $4,500 a month, and list your expenses by category: needs, wants, and savings or debt. Step 2. Set your percentages or categories. If you're using the 50-30-20 rule, divide your income accordingly. For $4,500 a month, that's $2,250 for needs, $1,350 for wants, and $900 for savings or debt. If you're using zero-based budgeting, assign every dollar to a category until you hit zero. For example, $1,500 for rent, $500 for groceries, $300 for debt, $200 for savings, and so on. Step 3. Compare and adjust. Look at your tracked expenses from the last month and compare them to your budget. Are you spending more on needs than you planned? Maybe your rent and utilities are $2,500, but you only budgeted $2,250. If that's the case, you'll need to cut back on wants, like reducing dining out from $400 to $150 to balance things out. This step is all about making your budget realistic. It might take a few months to get the numbers just right, and that's okay. Step 4. Automate and track. Set up automatic transfers to make your budget easier to follow. For example, if you're saving $500 a month, set up an automatic transfer from your checking account to a savings account the day after you get paid. If you're paying extra on debt, set up an automatic payment to your credit card. Then, track your spending throughout the month to make sure you're staying on budget. You can use a budgeting app, a spreadsheet, or even a notebook, whatever works for you. I use an app that sends me alerts if I'm close to overspending in a category, and it's been a lifesaver. Step 5. Review and tweak every month. At the end of each month, look at how you did. Did you stick to your budget, or did you overspend in some areas? Maybe you spent $1,500 on wants instead of $1,350 because of a last-minute trip. That's okay. Use it as a learning experience. Adjust your budget for the next month, maybe by cutting back in another area or finding ways to increase your income. Budgeting is a process, and it gets easier the more you do it. Common budgeting pitfalls to avoid. As you start budgeting, there are a few pitfalls to watch out for. I've made some of these mistakes myself, so I want to help you avoid them. First, don't set unrealistic goals. If you're used to spending $500 a month on dining out, cutting that to $50 overnight probably won't work. You'll feel deprived and give up on your budget. Instead, start by cutting back to $400, then $300 the next month. Small, sustainable changes are more likely to stick. When I started budgeting, I tried to cut out all my wants at once, and I lasted about 2 weeks before I gave up. It was only when I made gradual changes that I saw real progress. Second, don't forget about irregular expenses. Things like car maintenance, holiday gifts, or annual subscriptions can throw off your budget if you don't plan for them. Look at your spending over the past year and estimate these expenses, then divide them by 12 to get a monthly amount. For example, if you spend down $200 a year on holiday gifts, that's $100 a month. Add that to your budget so you're not caught off guard. Third, don't ignore your savings and debt repayment. It's tempting to focus only on needs and wants, especially if money feels tight. But that 20% for savings and debt is what builds your wealth over time. Even if you can only afford 10% to start, make it a priority. That's how you'll pay off debt, build an emergency fund, and save for retirement, all things that give you financial security. Finally, don't give up if you mess up. There will be months when you overspend, or when an unexpected expense, like a medical bill, throws off your budget. That's life. The key is to get back on track the next month. Budgeting isn't about being perfect. It's about being consistent. If you stick with it, you'll see progress over time. Tips for sticking to your budget. Long-term budgeting is a habit, and like any habit, it takes time to build. Here are a few tips to help you stick to your budget long-term, especially as a midlifer with a busy life. First, make it easy. Use tools to simplify the process, like budgeting apps that sync with your bank account and categorize your spending for you. Or set up automatic bill payments and savings transfers so you don't have to think about it. The less effort it takes, the more likely you are to stick with it. Second, reward yourself. Budgeting doesn't mean you can't have fun. It's about balance. Build small rewards into your budget to keep yourself motivated. For example, if you stick to your budget for a month, treat yourself to something small, like a $20 movie night or a coffee date with a friend. When I paid off my first credit card, I celebrated by taking my son to his favorite pizza place. Those little rewards kept me going. Third, involve your family. If you have a spouse or kids, get them on board with your budget. Explain why you're doing it, like saving for a family vacation or their college fund, and ask for their input. For example, you might say, "We're cutting back on dining out so we can save for a trip next summer. Where should we go?" When everyone's on the same page, it's easier to stick to your plan. Emily got her kids involved by letting them pick free activities for the family, which made the transition to a tighter budget more fun for everyone. Finally, review your goals regularly. Your budget should evolve as your life changes. Maybe you get a raise and can save more, or maybe you pay off a debt and can redirect that money to investments. Every few months, revisit your budget and your goals to make sure they still align with what you want. That'll keep you motivated and focused on the bigger picture. How budgeting fits into your midlife wealth plan. Let's zoom out for a moment and talk about how budgeting fits into your broader midlife wealth plan. In your 40s and 50s, you're likely working toward a few key financial goals: paying off debt, building an emergency fund, saving for retirement, and maybe saving for other big goals, like your kids' college or a dream vacation. A budget is the foundation that makes all of those goals possible. For example, let's say your goal is to save $500 a month for retirement. Without a budget, you might spend that $500 on random things, like extra clothes or dining out, and not even realize it. But with a budget, you can see exactly where your money is going and make sure that $500 goes toward your retirement account. Budgeting helps you prioritize your goals and make steady progress, even if it's just a little at a time. Budgeting also helps you avoid the mistakes we talked about in a previous video, like overspending on lifestyle or ignoring high-interest debt. It keeps you accountable and ensures you're moving forward, not backward. Think of your budget as the roadmap for your midlife wealth journey. It shows you where you're starting, where you're going, and how to get there. Budgeting might not sound exciting, but it's the key to taking control of your money and building wealth in your 40s and 50s. Emily's story shows how a simple budget can help you pay off debt, build a safety net, and start saving for the future. And you can do it too. I want to hear from you. What's one budgeting tip you're going to try after watching this video? Maybe you'll start tracking your expenses, try the 50-30-20 rule, or set up automatic savings. Drop a comment below. I'd love to hear your plan and cheer you on. If you found this video helpful, hit that like button, subscribe, and ring the bell so you don't miss our next video. We're going to be talking about how to boost your income in midlife to supercharge your wealth journey, so you won't want to miss it. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.